welcome to my channel. My name is Linda. I have some fun crafts for you today, and I have a few sweet friends who will be joining me, and I'll explain those details a little bit later. So what are we waiting for? Let's get started. Could you feel the excitement in my voice? I'm really excited about this one. You will be too. Today we'll be working on Americana style patriotic home decor crafts, so let's get started with project number 1. For this project, you can have as many fabrics or as little as you want. These first 3 came from Walmart. I think this came from Joann's. This came from Hobby Lobby. This other one I think came from Walmart at one time or another. Like I said, as many or as little as you want. This is a vintage tablecloth I got at a garage sale years ago. I've been just kind of ripping it up because it's stained up. This is a tablecloth I picked up at a craft show, vintage. And this is a machine sewn quilt I picked up at like Wayfair or eBay. I'm actually going to use the back side of it. All right, we're going to cover up the pretty side. Now this is a small decorative pillow. It's about 14 inches in length, about 11 inches in height. You can make it bigger or smaller if you want it for a tiered tray, or bigger for like, on a couch or something like that. Now I have pre-ripped all my fabrics. You can cut them however you want, and I'm doing a play on the red and white stripes on the flag. So this one's going to go across horizontal. It's about 12 3/4 inch wide, 4 3/4 inch tall. And no disrespect to the flag, we're just having fun, kind of rustic farmhouse Americana style. My next strip across the bottom, they're all going to be the same height at about 6 inches. This strip is ripped at about 2.5 inches wide. So on this lower course of stripes, I wanted to go up and down with them, okay? This one is about 4 or 6 inches tall, about 4 inches wide. And then again, these pieces, again, the same height at about 6 inches. This is about 4.5 inches, give or take a line or two on the ruler. And then this one also is about 4.5 inches, both in width. Okay, so again, just fun. Now this is for our stars section. This is about 5.5 inches in width, as you can see, or length, however you want to say it, about 4 1/4 or so inches tall. And then for my star area, I was going to use the stripe fabric. It's about 3.5 inches tall, about 4 3/4 inches wide, but then I decided I didn't like it, so I switched to this plaid. Again, the same measurements. I thought it went better with the colors. And then this is going to be for my star area, of course, that kind of vintage tablecloth I ripped up. Now I want to make like a cute little tag for our little pillow as well. So I've ripped this out of that Hobby Lobby fabric. It's probably about 1.5 inches tall, maybe about 4 inches long. I'm going to cut a couple pieces of batting to go underneath it. You don't have to have batting. It is optional. I'm going to use VersaFine ink. This is vintage sepia, basically a brown color with Michael's Clickable Stamps. I'm going to stamp the word freedom on them. Okay, I'll have those links in the description box for you. And then I'm going to use a couple of buttons as well, just to give it a little bit of personality. All right, if you're a gluer, you can just start gluing everything on however you want it. Your stripes may go horizontal all the way up and down your pillow. That's fine. You may go up, vertical, however you want to do it. Put your star area and stuff on. If you don't have, you could just use star fabric if you don't have, a plaid or anything like that to simulate your stars, or put a star there, a wood star or something like that. And then if you want to make a cute little tag like this as well, you can go ahead and glue that together. All right, if you're a sewer, we're going to sew our stripes on first on the top layer of your pillow fabric only. And then you're going to start with your bottommost layer of your stripes, if you're doing it like I'm doing it, and then, sew each layer accordingly till you reach the most top layer of your stripes, okay? If you're just doing them all horizontal, just, start from the bottom and move up when you overlap them, of course. And so here I am, we're just sewing our stripes onto, again, the back side of that quilted bedspread. Yeah, I can't remember if it was Wayfair or eBay. I picked them up for about, I don't know, $30 or so, $40, twin size, queen size. I just kind of keep a watch on them and start looking, for ones that I could buy. If they're machine sewn, it doesn't bother me to cut them up. So that's why I kind of look for new ones versus ones that people made. Unless someone made, one of those cutter quilts and they are just so ripped up, you're actually doing it justice by, reusing it and recycling it. All right, get these stripes on. I do like how this turned out. Again, I wanted it Americana. Again, no disrespect to the flag. I just wanted to give it a little bit of personality and have fun with it, right? All right, get this last stripe, quote unquote, stripe sewn on. All right, and then off camera, I'm going to go ahead and sew the star area and stuff. I thought I had shown sewing the star area, but apparently I didn't, so that's why I said off camera. But you did see me there, just kind of a straight line across that vintage material there, and then I'm just going to glue the rest of it down. All right, and then this, you could put it here, here, or here. There's different options for it. I almost went over the star area, but then at the end I decided this right side needed something. So if you're a gluer, wherever you decide to, attach it to your pillow, glue it on. If you're a sewer, you can sew it on. Here it is already done, ready to go. And now we can add the buttons. Now you can, whether gluer or sewer, you can glue them on. You can sew them through the top layer, hand sew them. I'm just going to add some twine through them and knot them off on the back and then just glue them on. Because a lot of times, yep, I'm going to say it, I'm a little bit lazy and I don't want to get the needle and thread out to sew them through. So I'll just put twine through it like I sewed them and just glue them on, because that'll hold up just fine with the Fabri-Tac glue. Now, if you're a gluer, you want to put your pillow together. So you're going to go right between the two pillow pieces of fabric near the end, about 3 3/4 all the way around, leaving open for stuffing. If you're a sewer, you're going to do the same thing. So here I am coming around it. I've got about a 1/4 inch seam allowance here. Sometimes it's a bigger pillow. I might go in almost like, oh, what is that? I can't remember the measurement. Right before a 1/2 inch seam allowance, in between a 1/4 and a 1/2 inch. I haven't had enough caffeine today. Sewing it, like I said, about 3 3/4 all the way around. Leave that space open for stuffing. Perfect, here we go. And then you're going to stuff it as full as you want it. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Pillow's cute, but it's not cute until we stuff it. It really pops it up and brings about the personality. So when you're done stuffing it, you can sew it or glue it closed. And then I like to come in with some sandpaper. I think this is like 120 grit on here. And I like to sand along all the exposed edges of those fabrics. It's a quick and easy way to fray the edges and make it look like this pillow's been around like forever. But that is just optional. You, of course, don't have to do that. The last thing we'll do is we'll get our buttons glued on. That makes this project complete. We'll take a look at the results at the end of the video. Joining in with me today are my sweet friends Jen, who is Mother Time here on YouTube, and Tracy, who is Country Charm by Tracy here on YouTube. And we are coming together to celebrate the red, white, and blue. I love joining in with these sweet ladies. We try and get together a few times a year to bring you fresh, creative ideas for your home decor. So make sure you check out the playlist link that will be in my description box, as well as pinned in my comments, so that you can go over and watch their videos, say hi, subscribe if you aren't already subscribed, and enjoy the fun that we have for you today. With that said, let's move right on into project number 2. For this project, I'm going to be using these 2 fabrics on the left. I got at Walmart. These 2 on the right, I got at Hobby Lobby. Now you can elect to use like double-sided scrapbook paper. That will work fine. But if you are using fabrics, you're going to want something like this, which is double-sided bond adhesive. Now this is just in my stash and it's really, really thin. So I looked online for a picture from you. This you can get from Walmart or Amazon or something like that. You can get different holds, like this says Ultra Hold on it, light hold, however you want. None of that really matters. Just make sure it is double-sided, okay? Now, I'm also going to be using some pinking shears. I've been brought up my whole life to call these pinking shears. If you leave a comment down below, put a scissor emoji in there. I want to see who's with me. I've recently seen some videos that they probably didn't know what they were, and they called them crinkle scissors, but they are pinking shears. Like I said, I want to know who's with me on this. I'm also going to be using some small diameter dowels. You can use whatever size you want. And then for the centers of these are ideas. You can use buttons. You could use these things. I don't know what they are, but you get them in like hardware section. Tiny little wood slices, bells, whatever you want. I couldn't decide at the time. I do end up going with buttons and in some kind of container. I have this vintage aluminum little coffee pot. I found at a thrift sale for like $2. You could do something like this. I know it's an old Christmas pail, but just a regular pail. Walmart has these in stock right now. It's really pretty, you know, in their July 4th section. You're also going to need some, you know, craft foam and some of this moss if you choose to use moss. Now, what I've done is you need 2 pieces for each of these. We're going to make pinwheels. These are going to be 6 by 6. All right, I've got this one ready to go. The other 2 I cut off on camera. This was just a scrap piece. I'm using it, you know, as my pattern, so I'm just cutting that out with my pinking shears here. You don't have to use pinking shears, or if you want to call them crinkle scissors, you do you. But I thought it just gives it a fun flair to it. But you could totally just use normal scissors if you want with a straight edge. All right, here's my 2 pieces cut out. All right, now what we're going to do is I want to put down my double-sided bond adhesive. Since mine is like really ultra thin, it's like uber cheap stuff, I'm going to do about 3 pieces. But if you get like that ultra hold or max hold, 1 piece is sufficient. Lay it in the center and then you just iron it. And then I cut mine, I'm trying to think. This is funny, I'm calling it silly, but 1/32 of an inch smaller than the actual diameter of the fabric, but you can kind of go end to end if you want. Just make sure it doesn't go over the edge of your fabric. Okay, so again, I'm laying my pieces in the center of my other 2. I'm only going to do 3 pinwheels. You can do as many as you want. And then you iron them really quick here. It's really like 4 seconds a square. You just iron it. You don't have to like hold it on there or anything. Just a couple of swipes across your fabric, just like I'm doing here, and it's that easy to hold and grab hold. The bond adhesive just makes it thicker. All right, now I'm going to use this piece. It's a scrap piece because I want to show you we're going to cut this. There's 2 ways. You could, of course, make an X down the center. Now, this is just a chalking pencil. You can get these at Walmart, and you can change the little tips out. It's got an eraser on it and everything. It's nice because you can't erase your lines. And then what I do is I want to just mark about 1 inch from the center mark in either direction. So I'll usually just place the 1 on that center mark and I'll mark 1 inch out and 1 inch out. Go here. I'll put the 1 on the center, go 1 inch out, 1 inch out, and mark on those lines we drew. And then you go from the corner of that fabric to that line, that 1 inch line, with your scissors, whether you're using crinkle scissors or pinking shears or straight edge scissors. If you want to eyeball it, you'll do that all the way around. You can just fold your fabric in half and then cut to about 1 inch from your center. On, you know, you only do that twice, or the other way you have to do it 4 times. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, whichever way you choose to get your lines, all right? So I'm going to do it on my normal fabric here again so you can see. It's easy to eyeball, but I'm going to do it this way so you can see that as well. And you don't have to place the 1 inch on there. Look, the 5's there. I'm just going to mark 1 inch out from the center, but just easy for, for explaining purposes. And then I'm going to use my crinkle scissors and cut to that line all the way around. So 4 slits from the corner to your marked line in the center. So you have about a, nice little square left in the center, so to speak. And then I'll erase my lines, of course, and then these are done. Now I'm going to go back to this little scrap piece to show you what we're going to do. So now you have these little triangles here, right? You can go either side of the triangles. You got a triangle, 4 of them. You can go either side, left side or right side. I'm going to go to the right side here, and I'm going to take that point to the center, and I'm going to glue it down. Okay? Then I'm going to turn my fabric. You want to stay on the right side if you go to the right side. Stay on the left if you go to the left side. So now I'm taking my right side of my next triangle and pinning it to the center. Right side of my next triangle and pinning it to the other 2 right in the center. Last one, turning it right side of my triangle. Again, you can go right or left. Okay? And then it's done. Before we move on to doing these, I want to show you, if you want in your sewer, you could elect to sew around all your cut areas. I'll show you here on a scrap piece what that looks like, and it looks really cool when you fold your triangles up. So that's why I wanted to show you that. Of course, I'm going to do it. Here's what that looks like. Now, It looks better on a lighter colored fabric. It's kind of hard to see on the dark fabric, but still I wanted to show you. See, when you fold it up, it really gives it some character and personality. So that's an option for you. And it's really easy to do. You just come along your straight edge like I've got here. And then of course you're going to turn it to go up your triangle. And then, you know, just like a little 1/8 of an inch above where you cut, go about 4 stitches across and then come back down. That's that cut in the, you know, corner, and then across again. And you're just going to do that all the way around. Now, I actually used a really dark brown thread. I should have used black. Black might be viewable better on darker fabric because it is hard to kind of see there, but I know I did it. So, you know, oh, what the heck? I know I did it. Now, here we go. I'm going to do my triangles up toward the center. I just happen to go to the right side of the triangles and going to, you know, pop those up and glue them up to the center, just like that. Looks really cool. Here's one I actually am starting on the left side of the triangle just to make it different. The glue kind of popped up there for a minute, or my triangle popped off the glue for a minute. So I got to hold it down and I need to snip that a little bit. It's a little too long. Just snip a little chunk there. It's going to get covered up anyway, but here it is from the left side just to make them look different when they're arranged in a bouquet. And when I'm all done, here they are. Once those are almost done, I'm going to take Waverly Antique Wax mixed with water, and it's great for use as an inexpensive stain, as a lot of you know. And I just want to make these dowels a little bit darker. I just thought, you know, they're a little bit too light, but, you know, you don't have to stain them at all. Once they dry, they'll go even, you know, a shade lighter in color, right? It just gives them a little bit more of a vintage look and a little bit of distressing, which doesn't really show up a lot, but it just kind of, you know, lightens them up a little bit more, but not as light as their original color. Here's the 3 buttons I'm going to use. Well, the one in the center has a little shank on. I'm going to do a little magic trick for you here. I'm going to do this, and the button's gone. Ha ha! Magic trick. Humor today. Now, I just wanted that shank off so it makes it easier to glue. And I'm just adding a little twine in the center of the other buttons. And then I'm just going to glue everything on. And I wanted each of my buttons different, so they all have a little bit different personality. Even though 2 of the pinwheels, you know, the fabric is the same, I still wanted the buttons to look a little bit different. I couldn't decide actually between buttons and the wood slices, those little mini wood slices, but the buttons, of course, I chose. I'm going to use VersaFine ink here with Michael's Clickable Stamps. I'll have links for those in the description box. From Michael's, stamp the word freedom. And I guess I should explain, I took some fabric and I ripped about 1.5 by about 2.5 inch. You could use 1 piece of fabric. I'm going to use 2. I'm going to add a little batting in between. The batting, of course, is optional. If you're a gluer, you can glue it all together. If you're a sewer, you can sew around it, which I'll do off camera. And here it is. And then I've ripped about a 1.5 inch strip of fabric, probably about 36 inches long. We'll use that in just a little bit. Now, with my coffee pot, I didn't really want to punch a hole in the lid, although I wouldn't feel bad about it. It was a little $2 coffee pot, even though it's vintage. But I wrapped a wire around that one part, as you can see, and I know this looks weird, but it's probably better to just look. I wrapped it so it would go clear down to the bottom and be stable. See, and then I just took some double-sided tape and I'll just put a piece at the bottom and then a piece at the side over the wire so that it will just stay in place nicely in case, you know, want to remove it or something like that later. But yeah, I wouldn't have felt bad. Now, if it was a really vintage expensive thing, I would not punch a hole in it. But a $2 little thing, I wouldn't feel bad about punching a hole. But anyway, now I'm going to put some craft foam in the bottom. I do end up taking it back out and putting some of that double-sided tape on it because it is a little bit wobbly. And now, once that's ready, I'm going to go ahead and glue my dowels down to the back of the pinwheels. Now, you could leave them like this. I forgot to film it, so I'll insert a picture here in a little bit. I actually covered the back of that with just a little scrap of fabric, just enough to kind of go around the dowel. But now I'm just like adjusting my dowels because easier to cut a little bit off so I can make them different lengths. And then I'm going to start by using some of that crinkle paper from Dollar Tree and then put moss on top of it. Here's my picture to the left here. See, I just used the same fabric and covered the back just to make it look a little nicer. If you want, optional. Now, I like actually putting crinkle paper in first, change the subject, and then putting some moss in on top because the two combined, number one, saves on the moss, because moss is a little bit more expensive than a dollar bag of crinkle paper, right? Plus it gives a little bit of texture if you allow some of that crinkle paper to come through. And I'm going to put a lot of moss at the top and just kind of let it hang down. Now I'm coming back to that strip of fabric here. I originally had my lid to the left by the handle, but I tend to like to put things to the right side, so I just kind of twisted my, since it's on wire, twisted that, lid over to the left side so that I could make a bow here on the right side by my handle. And I'll just kind of straighten that up and make it look pretty. And then I'm going to pin the tag to the center of the bow here. I love how this turns out. I think it's really cute. And then I've got a rusty star and those tiny little laundry clips that you can get at Dollar Tree. And I'm just going to, glue the star to the bow a little bit and then clip the little clothespin to that. So it looked like we just kind of clipped the clothespin to the ribbon, obviously. And then off camera, it's just water-based chalk paint. I do a couple of little tiny splatters on the coffee pot, and that makes this project complete. We'll take a look at the results at the end of the video. Let's move into our last project, number 3, and dupe something. So this picture I found from Antique Farmhouse came in at $64. I know, and it says it's 9 by 12. We'll talk about that in just a bit. Now you could do the same kind of thing. This is a great big 2-inch dowel I found at Restore or Habitat for Humanity, whatever you want to call it. It is cut about 12 inches already. And then one of these, thick wood circles from Dollar Tree. I've got stars from craftingwithkimber.com. I'll have links down below for that. Or you could use these came from Dollar Tree or Walmart. I can't remember, but I'm going to lindify it up. I'm going to go squarish on this one. So I've got this piece of molding. All of this came from Restore or just free, kind of just scrap wood that I had. This is already cut. This is a piece of wood I already cut. Everything's already sanded. I rounded off the, squared edges. This is a 5 by 5 circle, about 3/4 inch height piece of wood. This one is about 11 1/4 inches high. I love how thick it is. And I love that it kind of had a little area there were, broken and that kind of thing. And it's about 3.5 inches-ish wide or so. Now, if you put all this together, I am over 12 inches on this, or just about 12 inches. You can't tell me that where I am 12 inches, that this is 12 inches. It says 9 by 12 in height to the left up here. I think the 9 is the height of that, so we're taller. And now I'm going to use that, just saying, molding piece in the front, and it's going to be our blue area along the bottom where the stars go. It's about 4 inches tall. I just thought it'd be a fun character to add to this. Again, a couple of Crafting with Kimber stars, different sizes. At that point, I didn't know what I was going to go with, but I do end up going with that larger size. Now here, I'm just marking about the 4 inches up that my wood molding is. All right, I'm going to use Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color Dusty Blue, Dixie Belle in the color Rusty Nail, and Dixie Belle in the color Drop Cloth, all, of course, chalk paint. And where I marked that, I taped up above it, and now I'm going to paint it all along the sides blue. And in the front, I'm just going to go around the edges a little bit in case any is seen around that piece of molding, right? And then I'm going to paint that blue all along the sides and the front, of course, not the back like the piece of wood, because I'm going to use some wood glue. So I'm leaving that unpainted. And then I'm coming around here on the base using the drop cloth, again, leaving the center open. I marked it where that big piece of salvage wood is going to set, again, so I can use wood glue. And then I'm going to come in and start distressing everything. I want to get everything distressed. I like to distress with the tape on, so when you have colors like blue or red or something like that, it doesn't leak into any other colors you might have. This is going to really help us when we go to do our red and white stripes on the top. If you haven't done that before and you hate that color leaking into the next, you might want to try it this way. All right, I'll get all of this distressed, and then we'll go into taping our top piece for our stripes. I'm going to have to do this in sections. Okay, so I'm taping for the front and back stripes. Actually, I'm thinking this one maybe I can do all the red in one swoop, but it's the white I have to do in 2 sections because the way I have to tape it. And the side, I'm just doing this to keep that section open. This is what it looks like. Yeah, so I can do the red all in one swoop, but the white I have to do in 2 separate sessions. But I know the striping on the side is a little bit thinner. I'm okay with that. As long as the front, they're kind of the same width. And I can't remember, probably 3/4 inch maybe, and this is probably about a 1/2 inch. But it's just the way it is because, the way our wood is, the width of our wood and stuff. All right, once I get this on, I do a couple of coats. Even though I know I'm going to stress it, I'm kind of like, I still like to do 2 coats of paint because I like it to look full, if you know what I'm saying, and then I distress it versus it looking thin and then distressing it. Do you know what I'm saying? I like the paint to look ample underneath my distressing, I guess, so to speak. So here I am, like I said, distressing with the tape on because that way the red won't bleed into the areas where I'm going to do white, because then if you paint the white over it or drop cloth, right, now you've got a pink stripe, right? We don't want that. So I distress with tape on. Here I am, of course, removing the tape, revealing our beautiful lines, and then I'm going to come over. Yeah, so I have to kind of do the center stripe by itself, and then I can distress that and then retape the side to get the side stripes better. Yeah, I can't do it all at once. But, depending on how wide your wood is or whatever, you can maybe do all the stripes in one, swoop. Or if you use a smaller diameter tape or whatever. So here I am, of course, painting our drop cloth. Yes, like I got to do one side, I think like the front, and then distress it, and then I got to retape it to do the back. Because this one kind of covers up the back side. Did I really need to say all that? You probably all totally understand, but there you go. All right, now retaping for the other side. I do love, the distressed already of the salvage wood with nothing on it, and then you come and distress a little bit more. And I love the square look better than the round, but the round I would have totally done. I would have totally done it. Whatever you have available, I guess, and definitely we're going to make this a heck of a lot cheaper than $64. That is just crazy. I'm sorry. They had 2 pieces of wood and they painted it all on. Painted it on. Ours is going to be like 3D and everything. They painted it and it's $64. But, no big deal. Still looks cute. Ours will be less expensive and 3D character, personality, cute. All right. Distressed, it looks beautiful. Now I'm going to come in. I am using the bigger star here, but of course you can use whatever size star you want. I'm taking Waverly Antique Wax mixed with water, and I'm staining it first since it's a light color wood. That way, as you can see, when I come here with the drop cloth color, right, and I cover that stain up, when I go to distress it, that brown will kind of show around the edges a little bit from the wax and give it a little bit more dimension. But you don't ever have to do that. I just like to do that when I remember. So, because I love that. It gives it a rustic look as well. All right, now I'm taking some black paint mixed with water, and I'm just doing some splatters. Very little because I don't want it to be all total splattery, right? So, just a little bit here and there, but on everything so that it all looks cohesive, of course. All right, now here off camera, I sanded that because it was a little bit rounded and I needed it flat so that it would not make my star wobbly. So think about that if you go to glue something. Now I'm going to add some moss around the outer edge, just using my Beacon Fabri-Tac glue. And then I've got some rusty wire here, and I made like a U shape at the bottom so it can go right at the bottom of where I sanded so that the star, because it's going to be glued in the area I sanded, of course, that way the wire doesn't get in the way. Do you know what I mean? Because the wire is going to be up a little bit on that humpy part. Do you know what I'm saying? That I didn't sand. Now on either side of that U shape, of course, I'm taking the wire and wrapping it around a paintbrush, giving it some squiggles. And then I want to see where the wire is going to go. I will mess with it a little bit and I'll smush it and put it in a whole different position that you're seeing here. But I just want to make sure that I, like the option, and then I'll get that wire glued in. And then I'll add a bunch of glue in the center here to get the star on. I love how this turned out. I think it might be my favorite today. And I'm going to set a paint can on top so that, well, if it doesn't fall off, so that that star can set and glue really good. And while I'm waiting, I'm going to use a little button here and get some twine in the holes and then tie a little bow in the center of that. I'll leave the tails a little bit long because I do add some beads here. Couple of small size ones, and then of course tie a knot at the end of the bead. I do like a double knot, I think, so the knot looks a little bit more, substantial. And then cut off the excess. I'll smoosh the bottom of that a little bit. The bottom of that twine, smoosh. Smoosh. And then I'll glue that button to the top of the star. Perfect. And now I'm going to glue this whole piece to the front of our hat. Put a little bit of the Fabri-Tac glue on the outside for a hold till the wood glue sets up. And then I'm going to glue this whole top of the hat to our brim of the hat. Again, same thing, wood glue in the center, little Fabri-Tac glue on the outer edges. I'm going to set this down. I don't want to take the time to clamp this, so I'm going to set a really heavy paint can on top. Nobody move. And that makes this project complete. Let's take a look at the comparison photo. Of course, mine is on the left. I forgot to put the prices. Mine came in at about $1.50, and I'm being generous. Theirs came in at $64. I still don't think it's 12 inches tall. Mine is at 12 inches tall. What do you think? Which one do you like best? So I hope you enjoyed everything that I made today. As I usually say, please leave me a comment down below and let me know which project was your favorite. Please give this video a thumbs up. And if you walked in here for the first time and just checking things out, or maybe you came over from Jen's channel or Tracy's channel, welcome to my channel. I'm super happy you're here today. I hope you enjoyed everything I made. If you did, make sure before you click off, you hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on another project from me. Thank you, Jen and Tracy, for collaborating with me. You know I love our trio. We'll come together again. Can't wait for it. Love you, ladies. Now, before I go, I'm going to leave you with one final thought. God will never let you go through the fire alone. In the Bible, the book of Daniel, chapter 3, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego had to have faith to step into a fiery furnace. The story goes that the king of Babylon threw these 3 men into this fiery furnace as punishment for refusing to bow down to the king's image. But the best part of the story is that because of God's presence and protection, these 3 men were unharmed. God did not only save them from the fire, he was in there with them, right by their side. King Nebuchadnezzar even witnessed this 4th figure, resembling a son of God, walking with them in the furnace. King Nebuchadnezzar was so impressed that he even praised God. Because of what he saw, he issued 2 decrees. 1, everyone should worship the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And 2, anyone who spoke against their God would be punished. There are many accounts in the Bible where we see how God was right beside someone through whatever they were facing. In the story of Joseph, God's strength continued to be with him in every season, whether he was in a pit, in a prison, or finally in a palace. In Genesis, where the story is located, in chapter 39 alone, it was mentioned 4 times from verses 2 to 23 that, quote, God was with Joseph, or it said God was with him. I believe it was mentioned so many times in such a short span so that our eyes would see it and our hearts would receive it, that just as he was with Joseph, so he would be with us. Because what happens when we see things so many times or we hear things so many times, right? It sticks in our brain as though we memorized it. So I think it was there on purpose for us to see and remember it. So whatever you may be facing right now, God will not fail you or abandon you. God has plans for you. Don't let the enemy keep you believing that no one cares or that no one can help you. God always cares for you, and God will always help you. Emotionally, it may not be easy, but with God's strength, you can endure. In the Bible, the book of Isaiah, chapter 41, verse 10, it says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." In the book of Psalms, chapter 18, verse 2, it says, "The Lord is my rock, my fortress and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge, my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold. So take heart and remember, you do not walk this road alone, and the same God that showed up for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego will show up for you today. It's imperative to have trust, faith, and courage in God, and know that He will walk through the flames of your circumstance with you. He will provide a way out. I thank you for sharing your time with me, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye.